So we talked about what Xandeum is all about, why we need it so badly, but I really want to know, how do we get there? How do we get people involved? How do we make sure that this thing is actually taking place?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Action. Yeah, so how do we do it? First of all, we're building it right now, right? So as the state of things, as we're talking about this right now, we're in the middle of building it, and we're building it in public. I think that's also something that hasn't happened a lot, right? We have that roadmap with 30 releases, and we partitioned these 30 releases into 6 eras, right? So I'll go into these 6 eras a little bit. But each and every release is planned out right now, right? What it's going to cover. And of course, it can change, right? I mean, It's like no plan is show me one project where everything goes to the initial plan that was there. But we feel this plan is really, really thought out. And we have 6 eras, and we just call them the Deep South, the Main era, named after the German River Main, which you might also pronounce Maine if you want. And then there's the Central era, the Coal era, and the North era, right? So we have these 6 eras. It's a journey through the country of Germany from south to north, right? And we start with, and each release in these eras is named after a certain city. So the first one is the city of Constance, situated by Lake Constance. It's one of the southernmost points in Germany. Not the southernmost, but it's quite south, right? So it's the Deep South. And the Constance release is ready. Our team is working on the Freiburg release right now. The Freiburg release is it's just the second release in the Deep South. And then we already transitioned to the South era. And in the South era, we will have a fully functional prototype, right? It's a working prototype of everything, starting with the Munich release, which is the first one in the South era. And that's going to be a big, big thing, because then we have all components in the architecture. And I already talked about the dock in the last video that's running on these RPC nodes. We have another component called Atlas. And Atlas is the one kind of the distributed database that knows what file, what path is stored on which pNodes, what redundancy we need, and the apps can request their redundancy, right? There can be apps that say, I'm fine if my data is always stored on just 3 pNodes, right? And if one fails, we just find another one, and we have erasure codes and stuff, so we can recreate the data if one of those pNodes fails. And then there's others that say, well, I'd rather have them on 7 pNodes, right? And there might be mission critical ones that say, well, I need 43 pNodes, right? I love prime numbers, by the way, if you recognize it.
I've noticed. But okay, so the way you're explaining it, though, Atlas is essentially the DNS for this file system. It points where things are supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third component is what's running on the pNodes, the provider nodes, and there we have 2 things. We have the pods software that's connected to Atlas, and that's where things is really stored. That's responding to the challenges. That's executing the actual commands. And then we have an administrative GUI where you can kind of manage your pNode, and that's called XAND Miner. We think that's a nice name. And that's that super user-friendly thing that we talked about already in the previous video. So those are all the components that we have. And with the Munich release, we have that working prototype. And then there's a lot of other releases in the South era that make this prototype more look like something that can really be used by production software, by software that's really out there, and where we kind of put real mainnet crypto at risk, pay real fees and stuff like that. And that's going to happen in what we call the Mine era. And the first release in the Mine era is the Frankfurt release, situated by the Main River, of course. And with that Frankfurt release, we have an MVP, a minimum viable product,
Mm-hmm.
and we will build our first apps on mainnet already in that Frankfurt
Wow.
release. That's way earlier than we originally planned. So in that Frankfurt release, sometime mid 2025, we will have that minimum viable product. We will have our own Wikipedia clone, a decentralized Wikipedia. And there's lots of controversy about Wikipedia these days, and making this decentralized, it's going to be a big thing. And we might even have some other demo app, like that's a little bit simpler than the Wikipedia, like a guessing game that we have in mind. And we have a lot of people in our community that want to build apps, storage-enabled, decentralized apps on Xandeum, and want to be one of the first. So most likely, it's not only us that have the first apps. Maybe there's some other folks already out there, right? And it's a little bit like 2000, when was that, 8 or 9, when the App Store came out. The early apps were just Apple apps, right?
Yeah.
They demoed what you can do there, right? But then came all the other apps, right? And we're replicating that approach, right? We're going to do our own apps, and they won't be these demo apps like the decentralized Wikipedia. They won't be controlled by Xandeum, or not even Xandeum Foundation, or not even by the Xandeum DAO in any way, right? I feel like this decentralized Wikipedia, I feel we just want to make it as a donation to the world, right?
Gotcha.
It's going to be 100% decentralized by its own, run by its own token. It could be the info token or whatever the token name might be. And you know, I don't want to be a big holder there. I don't want Xandeum to be a big holder, right? It's just the first contributors that write the first articles and the ones that engage in that Wikipedia DAO and that stuff. And we do that just to showcase what we can do. Yeah, it will say, you know, powered by Xandeum,
Sure.
right? So it's an ambassador for Xandeum. And it's also showcasing it to the developers, because that obviously will all be open source. So the code is out there, and the intention is for entrepreneurs that have some business idea, and we want to build some app, but it has to be decentralized.
Yeah.
That they see in the code there, oh, that's how easy it is to build something with a storage layer on the blockchain. Right. And then think like, oh, I always wanted to do what? A decentralized Airbnb or a decentralized eBay or something. Cut the middleman. Don't have to play by the rules of Airbnb. They can censor anyone. They can
True.
do whatever they want, right? And just be self-controlled. Like a little bit like when I hear Airbnb, I always think about couch surfing. That was there before Airbnb. It was kind of the same thing, but it was all for free, right?
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned community a couple of times. I'm really curious into that aspect. 40 plus redundant nodes for your data. That sounds awesome, but you kind of have to build out for that. How do you plan on, including the community, the Xandeum community, and not only deploying nodes, but also being part of governance?
Yeah. So here at Xandeum, just as much as we're important, you're important too. The community is everything. And let me reiterate, we're building out infrastructure. Without the community, this is not going to go off. We need the community just as much as, we need ourselves here. And when we build that community out, through the DAO and through all our social media channels and outlets out there, we're making sure we're being as transparent and honest as we can and telling everybody what we need, where we are, and where we're planning to go. So the community, we want more people interacting. Please join. Please talk to us. Tell us your needs, tell us your wants, and we're listening. Trust me.
Yeah, and I keep repeating that sentence so often. We already have the best community in the world, right? And at least from my experience, and I've been doing things in my life a lot and had different communities.
Yeah.
But these guys that we have right now, they want to really be helpful. They want to be part of this early on. They want to actually run infrastructure, expend their own money to run that infrastructure. We don't have that community that you see everywhere, like, oh, I can get something for free, and I click some likes and then I get some tokens and then I sell them off the next day, right? We have real guys here. It's almost like that early Solana vibes that we have here for all our stuff, and it is so great to have that community, and it's, even if it's a lot of work, but we need to do it. We want to have that community, and when it grows to by factors 1,000 or 100,000 or whatever, we still want to keep these community vibes. It also means we need to police it, right? It's like
that's the governance. That's the question. Are you going to be handling all the governance? Are you in charge of everything, or do you want to hand it off to the community? That's a huge deal.
Yeah. We hand it off to the community. There's the Xandeum DAO out there that does everything, and of course, the Xandeum Foundation, as of today, is holding a lot of tokens, but usually Xandeum Foundation isn't voting in any of these proposals, and we're doing that, in a gradual way, right? Where it's not like in the early days all the community has all the say, because we still need to build it, right? So if the community had all the funds to build it and do all the marketing later on and do hackathons and stuff like that, that would be a different thing.
Yeah.
But we're doing that in a gradual way. And here's also one thing, right? And where we really differ from almost any other project that I know about, right? All the fees, all the revenues that will be coming in, right? And it's like a blockchain in its own. We generate revenue by collecting fees for each and every transaction, right? So all these set apps, as I call them, the storage-enabled decentralized apps, they have to pay fees to store stuff on a storage layer. These fees go to 94% to the pNodes. The pNodes will be able to, and they do the actual heavy lifting. So who does the work here gets 94% of the rewards. Awesome. And they can decide by themselves, how much do I pass on to my stakers, right? All the pNodes need to be staked. And how much do I pass on to the validators that challenge me, and all these type of things, right? So, and there is 6% left. Out of these 6%, 4% will go directly into the Xandeum DAO, to all the XAND token holders, right? It goes into the DAO treasury. And then there's another 2%. You might ask what that is. That is a reserve within the Xandeum Foundation. It's not any centralized organization. It's not Xandeum Labs. It's not me or Sean or Action. It is going into that foundation reserve, and that might be used to raise more money in later stages to fund this whole endeavor to fund the development, and then later on also fund the marketing. And as we've seen it with Solana, right, they raised most of their money when the technology was already there.
Yeah.
And then they raised $250 million, 250 million, roughly, I don't remember the exact number, just for marketing, just for doing those annual events, the breakpoints, just for doing the hackathons, and funding everything and getting all those developers to build on Solana rather than on Ethereum or Avalanche or anything, right? And we will, once our technology is there, our marketing pivots to that as well, right? Right now we're marketing to pNode operators. If you want to run a pNode, do it, right? And we, ultimately we'll need millions of those, but we do that in stages also. And, but then once the technology is there, all our marketing will be shifting to finding Web3 entrepreneurs that have great ideas, right? Think of like Hive Mapper. It's a great app on Solana where they sell those dash cams. You can take a video footage of wherever you drive, and they map the world and build kind of an alternative to Google Maps. But why is that why do we even need an alternative to Google Maps? They make it seem like it's decentralized, right? But it's not. It's a Hive Mapper is a centralized business.
Yep.
It all goes to that centralized business, and they sell off the maps with real money to real people as a centralized business.
Right.
Only thing they do is they pay you in tokens, right? Which is kind of probably cheaper for them than paying you in dollars for recording these videos.
Absolutely.
Right? Had Xandeum been there back in the day, they could have built it on Xandeum, and we could have a real decentralized version of Google Maps. That would be cool. And then everyone would see, well, why would I do that with Google Maps? Let's do it with that, right? With Hive Mapper, great app. Happy they are on Solana, and they are not, not saying they're a scam or anything, right? It's a great app, and I love them being there on Solana than anywhere else. But it's not decentralized, right? And they can't really. They published something like 2-3 years ago. Oh, we're experimenting with storing stuff on Filecoin and stuff, but they can't. Filecoin is not designed to do something with smart contracts or stuff like that. It's a standalone storage solution, right?
It doesn't store fast enough. It doesn't, retrieve fast enough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of limitations when it comes to that.
Yeah.
How are you going to get these people to build on Xandeum?
I think it's going to be very similar to how Solana did that. Annual events. It's for Solana. It's called Breakpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I love to call ours a Zandstorm. So that one.
I like it.
I like it too.
I think I have the domain zandstorm.vegas, so that'll be cool.
Cool.
Getting people into these events, having easy to understand documentation, having all our demo apps open source, having different docs for different types of people that have different levels of skills, and having community grants for people building stuff that furthers the goals of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And we have funds there in the Tokenomics set aside for these things, and hackathons, and that's the way it works. And
sounds grassroots to me.
And contrary to Solana, we don't have an incumbent player like that 300-pound gorilla in the room as they had with Ethereum.
Yep.
Right. So right now we have the first mover advantage.
Yeah.
And we aim on keeping that, and we have to be fast. And that's the reason we're hurdling through all these 6 eras. I mentioned the first 3.
Yep.
And then after that, we have the central era where we introduced the BFT, Byzantine fault tolerance, among those pNodes. So we make that storage really blockchain grade, right? The storage is completely decentralized. And then we have the coal era with that's the coal mining era in Germany, where I happen to be born and raised, and that's about the fee markets. And then we have the North era, which is about performance and scalability and all these type of things, hardening that whole thing. And our goal is to hurdle through all these 6 eras in this year of 2025.
Wow.
Obviously, only having like 95% solutions for all of these stages.
Yeah.
And it needs to be polished after that.
Sure.
And that's going to take years, right? Solana is still in beta, right? And mainnet beta. But we want to hurry through these eras in this year, have like a complete solution with everything we ever fancy, all the bells and whistles that we fancy it to have by the end of this year. And just, speed through everything just to keep that first mover advantage. And obviously with all the pNodes that we're building on the way, we're going to keep that moat up, because even if someone copies it, they can't get all these thousands of pNodes overnight.
No, I love that. Now, since we're talking about the how here, look at the camera and tell these people how they can get involved.
Oh, well, go to Xandeum.network, and on the upper right-hand corner, you can sign up to all our channels. So that is our email list, our Discord, and our X channel. You can buy the XAND token. That's probably the easiest way to get involved because we're super, super early with that XAND token, with all the economic benefits that I mentioned, with all the governance that's in there and everything. No financial advice here today, but I feel we're very well set up to get like 1,000x or probably like a 5,000x or something over the next 5 years in that XAND token. That's why we're building that. And it is not just a pipe dream here. It's rooted in the fees that can be generated with these Solana transactions. And it's rooted in the vision that once the storage layer is there, people are building those apps. The other apps will become extinct, right? Who will build an app that's not storage enabled if we have that storage layer? It's like iPhone apps that don't need an internet. We had them in the early days, but now they are extinct. So yeah, that's the way you can get involved and buy that XAND token, sign up to all these lists, and run a pNode.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on Xandeum Network already, you might as well just go read through our website, read the green paper, read through the eras that Bernie mentioned, and learn more about us. Why not? You're already there.
That's fantastic. I appreciate you guys so much going over this information. It not only covers the why we need this stuff so much, but how people can get involved. I mean, that to me is everything. Getting more people involved in things that they can believe in and ultimately build on. So if you're a builder, make sure you're checking this thing out as soon as possible. I appreciate you guys.